put on earth to make movies that move people. Welcome to Life by Randy's Cultivating Creativity series, and here we have a special guest, an exceptionally talented young man, filmmaker, Dom Porcari. Welcome, Dom.
Hi, Randy.
Thank you so much. We're here at beautiful Lakeside, and we're going to delve into the source of Domenic's creativity, what moves you, and how you got to even want to make films in the first place.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting for me as a filmmaker, or an artist, you could say, is that I spent my entire scholastic life preparing for an engineering career. My whole life I was, advanced in math and science. I played with, Legos and Connects as a kid. I was the captain of the robotics team. That just kind of, it was the path that made the most sense. I always made movies as a kid, like for fun, but I always told myself, oh, like artists, you don't make any money. You're just gonna get a $80 million degree to work at Starbucks or something. Not that there's anything wrong with Starbucks employees, but I didn't see it as a viable career option until April of my senior year of high school. I was already accepted to Penn State and Virginia Tech and Pitt and all the engineering schools for mechanical engineering. I just had to commit. And I did a small video for a friend of mine who was applying for this MIT summer program, and it needed a video application. She said, like, hey, you do movies, can you help me? I said, sure, and so I made her this video, and her parents loved it so much they paid me $300 for it on the spot, which, isn't a ton of money for a video like that, but as someone who, thought I couldn't make any money, it was suddenly this crisis of, wow, my whole reason for not pursuing this dream of mine was I'll be a starving artist. And as I was, eating the Chipotle that I bought with the money afterwards, I was thinking, I don't feel very starving right now.
As romantic as the image of the starving artist may be, a lifetime of film production, from backyard projects to Netflix TV shows, has taught me that artists actually enjoy eating.
And so I literally said a prayer that night. I said, look, Lord, if if you want me to do this, you got to tell me right now. Because again, this is April 16th, I think. And I was going to graduate high school in 2 weeks. And the very next morning, I go downstairs and there's a thank you note on my desk from her dad with another $100 check in it. And so I thought, well, if that ain't a fleece and wool, I don't know what is.
So that was your sign. So is that safe to say that at that moment you knew your purpose?
No. And I'm glad you asked this, because a lot of people, I talk to so many college kids, before college or in college, and I tell them that story, and they think like, oh, they say like, oh man, it must be so nice to have such an obvious sign like that for, what you want to do. And what I tell them is, even after that, I was still very unsure. Even with a sign like that, I thought, one does not simply spend their entire life preparing for one path and then take a left turn right at the last minute. I went to a high school that was very STEM oriented. It was essentially a STEM high school. When I got into this film program, I was going up against kids who went to film high schools. I didn't even know that a film high school was a thing. I thought there was STEM high schools and regular high schools. But these are people that have been training their whole lives to be filmmakers. And so I thought, well, man, I'm very behind the 8 ball. But and I thought, what if this is a mistake? I'm derailing my career. But I told myself, as I said, I will do this. I'll do film for 1 year as if it is my single God-given purpose on earth, and as if nothing else matters. And if I'm still unsure at the end of that year, then I'll switch back to engineering, or I'll reevaluate then. But until then, I'm just going to do it as if it is my passion and my calling. And within 4 months, I was convinced. And so my advice to people, looking for a sign, or if they're not sure where or what they want to do is pick something and decide for a year that is your thing and that nothing else matters and that you love it. And then I think. We're talking about inspiration. I think inspiration follows action more often than not. I think a lot of people, they wait to be inspired to start, whether it's writing or start working or start doing anything. I think part of becoming a professional is you realize the inspiration will come when you start. And so, pick a direction and go, and you'll find the inspiration somewhere.
Now, you said about this engineering background that is, safe to say, very left brain.
I am just a young man with a screenplay kind of strange. I squandered a promising engineering career for a life of groveling at the feet of semi-estranged relatives and old friends, begging them for their spare change to make films that make them laugh and cry, in the high hopes that one day I can thank God and my agent and rant about climate change.
Yes.
Okay, so you're in this left brain career path. I think you were homeschooled?
I was, yeah.
And so with homeschooling, I think that moms could be very creative, right? And I'm a big proponent of homeschooling.
Oh yeah.
And so did you like that experience?
It was, and I did homeschooling up until like I think 6th grade. Then I went to a part-time study center for 6th through 9, and then 10th through 12 I went to a prep high school. So I really got a nice, I got everything across the board. And homeschooling was great because it let you go at your own speed. And I didn't really realize that until, I started being in regular schools where even in my high school was great, but I was like, oh, I'm not as free to, pursue what I'm pursuing, or just, because if I got my school done by, 11, then I was done. I had the rest of the day to be creative and explore.
Beautiful.
And yeah, my mom was very artistic. She grew up with 7 sisters, so she knew how to play the piano and sing, and so she taught us to sing and, gave us an appreciation for all that, so that when we, in our, very small high school, when the musicals came up, our family just kind of came in, and my mom and dad, and my dad also, he grew up competing in ballroom dance internationally when he was in college, so they both brought some really neat, artistic backgrounds. And so, my dad would help out with the dance, and my mom kind of became the director of the music in the film, in our high school musicals, and brought that to the school. So yeah, I mean, I've had a very, I don't know how to necessarily say it, but like the upbringing I've had, I think I've been very blessed to have it, and I've worked very hard to take full advantage of all the opportunities and the things it's afforded me.
So you had this rich cultural artistic background, but I think your dad's a businessman as well.
Yeah, and that's
very successful.
Yeah, and my dad is, he's a white collar guy with a blue collar attitude, I like to say. So he grew up, painting and fixing cars and woodworking. So, he taught me all that stuff too of just, I love working with my hands for as much as I love, the artistic and the ethereal bits of, creating and writing. If I can't do like physical labor and build something that I can touch and hold, then I get all out of whack. And so yeah, you need that balance. And I'm so glad that I had two parents that could teach me, not only how to do that, but how to appreciate those things.
Oh, that's awesome. So you grew up with this kind of protected, very rich environment on both the left side and right side of the brains. And so when you have a son, I think, or a daughter that wants to be a filmmaker, you ought to have, it's a bonus to have a supportive family, supportive parents.
Absolutely, and I gotta give a shout out to my dad, because as you can imagine, it's every parent's dream for their engineer of 18 years or 16 years to say at the very last minute, I want to study film now, like 2 weeks before graduation. And my mom was, moms worry, so she was worried. But I'll never forget what my dad said. He said, "Look, it's not the path that I would have chosen for you, but he said, I know that you'll work hard at whatever you do, so if you promise me that you will pursue this with the same intensity that you did your engineering, like, you have my support all the way."
Awesome. And from what E.G. and I know of you, you have pursued it with everything you have, and you continue to do so. Now, at your young age, Dom, and I don't know if you want to say your age or not, but you can give her. I think you're under 25.
I'm younger than you, probably.
Pointing to my husband behind the camera.
Pointing to the camera, pointing to just about anybody watching this. Yeah, probably younger than you, but yeah.
And you have a feature film under your belt that's won all kinds of awards. Now,
so our performer this evening stepped in on short notice. Without further ado, give it up for Joseph Lakeman.
No, that's not me.
That is so you.
No, it's not. That doesn't look anything like me.
Dude, that's so you. Come on, man.
Joe? Is that you?
Do you know that feeling?
Do you live around here? I just moved to Lakeside
you think
yesterday.
you've reached the bottom,
Okay.
but there's one more step there.
Do you
That
still
was
do
my
music?
feeling upon seeing you. But instead of
Nope.
one more step, there's
What happened, Joe?
302.
Oh my God, look! What?
Now, Dom is not just a filmmaker. There's nothing just about that. But added to your resume of filmmaking is directing, acting, producing, co-producing.
Steadicam operation, writing, some sound design, editing, and
Comedian.
A little bit, yeah. I hope so.
We find you very funny.
Oh yeah, songwriter too. I guess you throw that in the.
Yeah, songwriter as well. Amazing, talented young man, and Hollywood needs you.
I'm excited to get there.
So Hollywood needs you to help redeem it and redeem the movies, and to place someone like you with your integrity and character and passion and commitment and faith to be a center stage making movies there. So can't wait for that, and I know that's going to happen for you. And E.G. and I are going to do everything we can to add to that and help you. So let's talk about your first feature film that debuted. So we are at Lakeside Chautauqua in Ohio, and if you're a follower of Life by Randy, you know that I live here now. We live here now. And it's a magical place. I call it Ohio's Brigadoon.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
And the feature film, Beyond the Lake, was filmed here. And you have a great story because it was COVID 2020 when it hit, and the world was shutting down. Tell us about how that all worked out.
So I had just come off a very prolific 2019 where I had 4 very spectacular short films. 3 of them were really solid action projects, one of which, is probably still to this day one of the best things I've made. And there's an action franchise called John Wick, which is essentially the cream of the crop of action today. And the guy who trained the actor to play him, he saw one of those films. He's like, this is really good. So I just come off of that, and I just made a 27-minute short film that I thought, well, okay, we made this 27-minute film in 7 days, so there's no reason we couldn't make a 90-minute film in 21 days, right? And I started thinking, yeah, I'm graduating soon. I won't have any debt. I'll have a lot of freedom. And this was pre-COVID.
Now, graduating film school, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'd be graduating in April of 2020. This was in December. So I was thinking, I've got this opportunity. Let's try to get my first feature under my belt, right out of college, while I still have the network of people here. There was an alumni grant at our school where recent grads could use all the production equipment that the school offered, so they didn't have to rent it. So I thought, yeah, now's the time to do it. And it literally just started with me talking to a couple actor friends of mine and said, hey, what's a type of character that you've always wanted to play but never get the chance to? And my friend Allison said, oh, I want to play someone more bubbly and innocent. And my friend Joe Cannon said, oh, I want to play someone a bit more dark and brooding. And well, perfect. That's a great, dynamic. And so I started just writing the story around that. I knew I should probably film it in Lakeside because it's a beautiful place and it's all very mobile. So within a few months, I had a really good working script. I assembled a full cast and crew. People were really excited. I started developing this, way over the top crowdfunding campaign, which you saw the video for. It's out there.
Now you may be wondering, Dom, isn't this kind of an inappropriate time to be making a film? And to that I say, this is the most important time to be making a film.
Ground control, filmmaker Dom. Ground control, filmmaker Dom. Check the news right now and say what's wrong with you. This is ground control to filmmaker Dom. You think you're really brave, but the country's got bigger things on its plate. So just let this go until some other day. This is filmmaker Dom to ground control. My crew needs to stay safe. So if COVID comes back this fall, we'll have to wait. But the country needs stuff to believe in today. Ground control to filmmaker Dom. The economy's dead, so much is wrong. We can't help you, filmmaker Dom. We can't help filmmaker Dom. Can you help filmmaker Dom? 'Cause he's here, and he's here from a tin can, clinging on to hope. The sun shall rise again, we'll be ready to film then.
And it was all looking, really good. And And then it was March, maybe March 13th, I think it was. I remember the day because that's when we'd been hearing about COVID for a while, but that was the day where everything, the dominoes started falling in the U.S. And I remember being at school, just getting email after email about this is shut down, this is shut down. And yeah, essentially we stopped going to school March 13th, and we never went back. And that was my, graduation. And I told the cast and crew, like, look, we're planning to shoot it in June. I was like, I know there's uncertainty, but, I still believe in this. I think we're going to still have a good showing. So let's just, keep on being ready. And, they said 2 weeks to slow the curve. So, after 2 weeks, it'll be fine, right? That's all it'll take.
I am the poor filmmaker, and I want to make my film. I cannot pay for it, so I'm hoping that you will. Today I'm very confident. I know we'll raise the funds, but I'm also scared because I was not prepared for a little crown to shut the whole world down. So I'm hoping we can get this done.
And as we know, 2 weeks became 3, then 4, then 5, and as the weeks dragged on, I started getting messages from cast and crew saying, "Hey, look, I love this film, but I've got older relatives that I don't want to get sick, or I don't know about this," and so people started dropping off. And then the crowdfunding campaign, which I'd put all this work into, it got maybe like 6% of the way there because, again, nobody wants to donate money to anything when you're not sure if you'll have a job in a month. So that didn't work. And then eventually it got to the point where, obviously June came and went. We didn't shoot. So I thought, okay, well, I'll push this back to July and we'll film then. But it got to the point, I think it was on my birthday, when I found that the film had no cast, no crew, no money, no prospects. And I wasn't really worried. I just thought, like, okay, well, I'll have to find different people, or I'll have to just find money a different way. There was never a moment where I thought, oh, okay, I guess that's it.
My mentality has always been that of the great Clint Eastwood.
We find a way through tough times, and if we can't find a way, then we'll make one. All that matters now is what's ahead. How do we come from behind? And how do we win?
God, I love this country. If we can't find a way, then we make a way. And one of those ways needs your backing. See what I did there?
And so, yeah, I pushed the film back some more. I started replacing the cast and crew with past collaborators, started talking to families in Lakeside about, like, hey, I want to make this movie in Lakeside, and I think it'll be great for it. And so a lot of the people here became some of the film's first credited investors. It really kind of set us on our way. And again, then there was statewide mask mandates on top of that. And then
Government caught me driving for a non-essential purpose. I gotta make this quick. So, a wise man once said that if you want people to do their best, then be their best. Just freaking pay them. Stop asking if they work for free on your passion project. So, part of your donation will help us pay the actors what they deserve. And heck, maybe even the crew.
that, and then more people. We had 4 different actors go through the lead role of Joe Lakeman, our main character, before we found the 4th one. The 3rd guy literally dropped out the day before we were slated to start production. This was in August, and I was literally driving home to Pittsburgh to shoot like the first kind of prologue of the movie the next day, and I get a text. He says, "Hey, I can't do your movie. I've been hit by a truck," and that was it. I mean, of course, I was like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he gave me a cryptic return, but
Wow.
It sounded like the kind of thing if he just needed to get out of his contract, and the only way out was force majeure. So now we're 2 weeks away from shooting, and we don't have a lead actor again. And thankfully, one of the opportunities that COVID did afford us was, because nobody was working, one of the things that was shut down was Broadway. And there happened to be this amazing actor named David Sokolar who toured with the national cast of the musical Waitress. And I was able to get in touch with him through a friend of mine from Los Angeles, and I just said, "Hey, I'm looking for a guy that's, actor, singer, songwriter, can play the guitar, is tall, and free for the month of October." He's like, "Yes." He said he was just twiddling his thumbs in his parents' house in Baltimore, going crazy, just saying, "Get me in a creative space." And yeah, 2 weeks after our first call, he was, sleeping in my basement as we were shooting, and he was fantastic. So the whole lead up was such an ordeal, and I mean, I could go on for hours about the whole stories, but does that answer your question? I forget what you actually asked.
Yeah, about COVID, and
right,
so
yeah.
You played a supporting character in that.
I did,
right?
yeah.
Okay, And that became one of the lines of your supporting character really showcases not only the movie, but I think it showcases what happened in the making of the movie. And that quote.
Can I guess what it is?
Yes.
Sometimes good things fall apart so that better things can fall together. Yeah.
Right?
I didn't even read that, I promise.
So
Yes.
say that again, Dom, and a little more slowly, because this really is the story of, I know, my life, and I think really a mantra or a foundation for so many.
Yeah, it's sometimes good things fall apart so that better things can fall together.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, when I say it in the film, I'm standing right there by that rockin' tree. That's where I delivered that line. And yeah, and it really, you know, I can look back on all these things and smile about them because I've come through it. But even after all those, you know, just nightmare scenarios, you know, even during the film, there were just really brutal things on a personal side, and you know, even behind the scenes, there was stuff going on that was, you know, very hard. I made some mistakes in the way that I handled certain situations that, you know, had got a couple people, you know, it hurt a couple people emotionally a lot, and I've gone through the same thing since, and you know, knowing that is never a good thing, and I'm always the kind of guy, I will only see the flaws in what I did.
You're hard on yourself.
Yeah, because you know, I want to be as perfect as I can. I know it's something you chase, you never really get to, but but when I hear the cast and the crew talk about their time, it's reassuring because they don't remember that. They remember, like, man, I got to spend a month during the worst time in my life in like the best place ever, and it felt like going to summer camp, and like it was such an answered prayer. So yeah, there was still a lot of great things that happened. There was a lot of magic. I mean, one of the magic moments, which I'll share, is we were doing our first day of production. We were on the lakefront by the dock, and we had a great day. People were getting in the rhythm. It's the sunset. We're shooting easy stuff. You know, it's great weather. There's people crowding around to see. And we finished the shot. Our assistant director calls, all right, that's a wrap on day one of Beyond the Lake. And that very moment, the sonorous melody of Amazing Grace starts floating over the water. And we look, and there's a guy playing the bagpipes on the edge of the dock against the sunset, playing Amazing Grace to christen our film. And it was such a beautiful moment. And that guy actually ended up cameoing in the film. I bumped into him a couple days later. I just said, hey, you want to be in our movie? And I wrote a little scene in where, you know, the main characters, who are each struggling with their own internal battle, they go down to the dock and they see this guy playing Amazing Grace, and they kind of take some courage from that. And yeah, it was a fun moment.
And that captures the spirit of Lakeside.
Yeah, and then someone last was like, does this kind of stuff happen all the time? I was like, kind of does.
Yeah, it kind of does. And so for the viewers, where can they see Beyond the Lake?
So we're finishing our distribution deal right now. It's all of the unattractive parts of filmmaking, where it's paperwork and insurance and deliverables and formats and rendering. If you go to beyondthelakefilm.com, you'll be able to sign up with your email to get a notification of when the film will be available to pre-order. So it'll be on iTunes and to rent on Amazon. Anywhere you'd buy or rent a movie, you'll be able to find it.
Okay, we'll put those links below.
Yeah, for sure.
And
I'm more unlucky than him.
I just want to belong somewhere for once. I just want to feel home.
I'm drifting, oh, I'm drifting.
Wherever you run, there you are.
Back to
Let it go, Joe. Let it go.
You've never let anyone in far enough to actually hurt you, and you're lecturing me about forgiveness? You have no idea what you're talking about.
You should really take that down.
I don't know.
I don't know what I'd put in its place.
All our cards are on the table. There's no more silence, no more pretending. This is just you and me.
Sometimes good things fall apart so that better things can fall together.
If you're ready to be home, do it.
'Cause you're scared of your darkness, afraid of your pain, but you never see flowers if you don't let it rain. I know that you're broken, I'm incomplete too, but if you're here with me, my love, I'll here with you. Stay, don't go anywhere, 'cause you're worth it, I swear, stay.
And so, what kinds of awards did this film win?
Yeah.
And this is just recently.
Yeah, we did a very targeted film festival campaign. I mean, there's a certain aspect of festivals that, you know, you and I could start a film festival and we could, you know, say, oh yeah, it's the Lakeside Festival. We may only have 3 people, you know, submit.
Maybe we do that.
Maybe I think we should, but that goes to say not all
Yeah,
festivals are
right.
created equal. And so,
Okay.
you know, the ones that I submitted to were only a place where I thought, okay, I would be honored to win or to get nominated here. We didn't really go for like the filler fest, so we got into the North Hollywood Cinefest. That was a really big deal. That was a great festival. We got nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Leading Actor, and then at some festivals on the East Coast in Boston, we won Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Supporting Actress.
You were
I
the
believe.
director?
I was also, yes, writer, director, actor, co-producer, Steadicam operator, you know, wrote the songs, edited the film a little bit, and yeah, just wherever I was needed.
Talented young man. What about your next film? Let's talk about Of Monsters and Men.
Yes, lads. So Monsters and Men was born of, so I mentioned that I had a rougher end to 2021 than I had, you know, to the last few years, where just kind of had a couple instances where integrity is very important to me, and there were some people who came after my integrity, and I didn't stick up for myself as much as I should, and I let my name take a bit of a hit in an area where I really shouldn't have. And once people decide that you are something they hate, there's, you know, they will just label you as, you know, a monster of one brand or the other, and then there's not really a way back, or how do you find a way back from that? Because, you know, when the quote-unquote good people that you're supposed to believe in and trust, when they, you know, cast you aside and you're left with nothing but the, you know, the other castaways, what do you do with that? And more importantly, you know, what happens when you start to believe that? Because, you know, the devil he's the prince of lies. He'll get in your head. And, you know, I was going through a lot where I was starting to think, well, maybe I am everything that these people are saying. And so I started thinking, you know, what kind of story could I write here? And as you know, I love the action movie genre.
Yes.
My whole goal is to make incredible action films that also have an incredible message and that are just well-made films with great characters and dramas and themes. Action. So I just done Beyond the Lake, and I thought, okay, I'd love to dive back into action now. And so I just and I'd love to do something in the fantasy, because I was watching The Lord of the Rings like I do every December. So I got this idea of doing a fantasy story about a knight of a esteemed order who is framed for an assassination that he didn't commit, and his whole order is blacklisted essentially, and they're persecuted and they're all killed. And to kind of save his own neck, he is given this kind of opportunity by a sleazy mid-level politician who says, look, you know, your head's gonna roll regardless, but there's this shapeshifter that's been plaguing our town. He's been disguising himself as people who live here and committing these heinous crimes. If you can get him to take your head and kill him, we'll send that head in, and you can slip away, and he'll essentially be your scapegoat. And so this knight, you know, he takes the deal, but as his hunt evolves, he starts to realize that this shapeshifter might be just as much a scapegoat as he is, and you know, he's also not the monster that he's been made out to be. And so this knight, with time running out and his life on the line, the knight is struggling to kind of discern monster from man, you know, both in his surroundings, the people around him, but also in himself, because the more he hunts this thing, the more it brings out the monster in him. And the whole thing was actually inspired by a Friedrich Nietzsche quote, which I think is a very powerful quote. He says, a man who fights monsters for too long becomes one himself. Mm-hmm. And I understand that, having gone through everything that I've gone through with not only Beyond the Lake, but just other, you know, films in my life, other struggles, and, you know, having to fight so many battles that, you know, never really should have had to happen. You can feel it harden you, and I was always concerned about, well, you know, what if I beat the monster, but like, what's going to be left of me when I'm done? Like, will I even be recognizable? And so that conflict was something that I wanted to write about, and as the script started to take shape, it really is a very powerful story, because and the shapeshifter was, you know, someone who can become any face. You know, he can be anybody, but yet who is he too? And so the knight, as he's hunting this monster, you know, one of the things that the shapeshifter tells him at one point is, you know, we both change our skin to save it. You're doing it just like me. You're, you know, you're going to kill me even though I'm innocent just to save your own hide. Like, we both change our skin to save it. I'm just better at it. And there's a very beautiful, and there's a beautiful redemption there, which I won't get into here, but yeah.
Yeah, no spoilers.
But to bring it back to your point, finding how does someone come back from that, and what does it take when someone has, starts to believe that they are the monster that they've been told. What does it take to bring them back? And finding that was, I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
Make someone a monster. That's the question behind Of Monsters and Men, a fantasy action film about misinformation, identity, and redemption. The story follows a disgraced and deformed knight framed for regicide, who accepts a chance at absolution by hunting and killing an elusive shapeshifter. As his hunt evolves, the knight begins to realize that this shapeshifter may be just as much a scapegoat as he is. With time running out and his life on the line, the knight struggles to discern between man and monster, both in his surroundings and in himself. Today's society encourages us to deface and destroy those we don't understand. To see them not as people, but as monsters. It creates an endless, unwinnable game of monsters and men. The only rule? Stay on the right team. This film is an attempt to end that game, because not all monsters are what they appear. And if we look deep enough, we find there's a monster in all of us. But this film will serve as a reminder, as tales old as time and songs old as rhyme have for generations, that there's no beast that can't be redeemed by a display of beauty. So join us as we fight back against real monsters who want their fate to be ours.
I shifted the script a little bit so that it could still function as a feature film, but also leave a lot of room for expansion. A disavowed knight recruiting the monsters he used to hunt to take back the kingdom from the queen who framed him, it's a really good engine. And you can essentially make just every episode is a new monster, a new, theme, a new myth that he's going to have to confront and find, who is the real monster here? Where, why has this thing been monstrosized? And, where do I stand? And who do I back here? And so I met you two, and we'd met at the Beyond the Lake screening. But I told you about the project and about why I thought it was important and, thematically. And EJ, who had been pretty quiet up to that point, I remember he said, this is too important not to do right now. You don't know where the dollar is going to be a year from now. Take the next 5 days, see if you can get the money. And if you get it, then that'll be your sign to go. And if not, then, you said if you get close, let us know. We'll help you out with some people. So I just, and I still wasn't sure. And I think we even talked again the next day of I still, I don't feel like I'm ready, or I feel like if it works, I'm going to want to go and, do everything and finish the whole thing. And you just said, look, can you commit to making what you can make and then just putting it in God's hands and letting him do the rest? And I said, sure. And $10,000 came in 4 days. And so I thought, well, okay, again, that's my message to do it. So the cast was ecstatic. The crew was great. We got a great assistant director, a great, DP, assistant camera, just a great grip. Everything was there. I had a bigger crew I had more people and more money than I had for Beyond the Lake. So we got a really solid opening act, and I want to use that to garner more interest from people who could give it the production power that it deserves.
So that's called proof of concept. So
Yes.
I read that. So you've got a solid proof of concept that can be distributed. And so you own the rights to that then,
Yes.
of Monsters and Men. So that can go to...
Well, when I get to LA, I'm hoping to meet the people that I say, hey, I've not only got a great script, but, check this out.
for a movie and then a series. That's
For a movie or a series, yeah, I think it works really well either. I've come too far to quit now, and if I am going to
Yes.
have to take all the hits, I want to make it to the finish line,
Good
I don't
for you,
I don't want
Dom.
to suffer all this and then not make it, so.
Absolutely. What's your ultimate dream?
Ultimate dream is make incredible action movies that are great movies, work with a great team of people, and just move people with the genre that I'm really passionate about and make movies no one else can make.
Awesome. And we have every confidence that you're not only doing it now, but you're going to do it on a grander scale.
Well, thank you.
And it's not going to take you that long.
Oh, well, you guys have been great and so supportive, and thanks for always, encouraging me to keep going.
You're welcome. It's our privilege. And hope you enjoyed this episode with the amazing filmmaker Domenic Porcari. More to come. You will be hearing more from him out of this young man. Thank you. Thanks, Dom.
Thanks, Randy.